Welcome back to another episode of Satisfactory Update 8 in the Unreal 5 engine. And on this episode, we're going to be diving into our Tier 5 milestones. We have oil processing, gas mask, alternative fluid transport, and industrial manufacturing. So sit back, relax, and let's jump into it. Alright, so in the last episode, we ended up getting the Phase 2 of the space elevator completed, which unlocked tiers 5 and 6. So in this episode, we're going to be focusing mainly on tier 5 and kind of chipping away at getting some of these milestones completed. And the first one we're going to go after is our oil processing. And the only thing that we're not making here is our motor production. So that's the one that we're going to be kind of focusing on, is getting that up and running. But we're not making any motors, so we need to figure out exactly what we're going to need for that. So for motors, we're going to need these those rotors and the stators that we have over here. And I've just thrown down a temporary assembler over here so we can have a look at what we're going to need for it. It is 10 rotors per minute and 10 stators per minute. I know I'm making enough stators here to be able to get one of these production lines up and running, so I'm not worried about that. However, I am a little bit worried about how many of the rotors we're making. And I believe here right now, we're only making 8 per minute of these. We got 4 coming there, 4 coming there. And we're consuming 2 over here, so that leaves 6, so we're 4 short. We need at least one more assembler here making rotors. So I'm going to have to step up our production line here to be able to increase our rotor production. So let's get that done first. Okay, so all I did was I just added a layer above our existing assemblers that were making our rotors. And then I threw a splitter in here so we could split the iron rods going up to this top floor. We're actually making 240 iron rods per minute. And up to this point, we were only using about 112. We're now sitting at about 152 of the iron rods at this point. And then I had another line of screws that I pulled from over here that is 240 items per minute that's coming in here, which actually this is only consuming 200. So we do have 40 screws per minute that we could use elsewhere at some point. But I think this is a pretty good start. So this adds an additional 8. So we're at 16 in total of rotors being made. And we're only consuming 2, so that leaves 14. That's 4 rotors overflow because we only need 10 in total to get one of those machines up and running. So what I've done is I've taken this conveyor now and I've brought it along here. And I've just added this to this conveyor bus. And I still have to finish adding the rest of the conveyors down here. But then it's going to go over there, it's going to drop down and head off to where we're going to set up our motor manufacturing line. So let me get the rest of these conveyors in, and then we will get that assembler set up. Okay, so we added our next production line here for our motors. So what I did is I took the stators. They were feeding along here into this anyway, so I just brought them up on an elevator for the excess ones. They're going to shoot down this way, drop into this elevator, head down, and they feed into the far channel. And then the rotors that we have coming all the way over from over there, they're feeding along this way. They run down here into this small little elevator to the bottom level and feed in. And now we are making 5 motors per minute, and we've got a whole 5 of them done. Yay for us. Now it's a matter of just waiting for this to stockpile so that we can go and start turning in some milestones. So we're just going to let this run for a while, and then, we'll be back once I got a few stacks of it. All right, while I was waiting for the motors to get all produced for us, I decided to get a little transportation system set up here that will go to various parts of the base. So I've got one here at the hub that we can dive into. Of course, I put some little barriers here to keep us from launching out. So this first one here, it takes us basically kind of over to our steel production area. And I've kind of made these little hops along the way as we're getting there. So this one here, of course, as soon as we get out, if we take this tube down, it takes us down to our steel production. I don't want to go through that one yet. If I continue along this route, it'll actually take us out to the raw material nodes that we have out here, the miners that we have set up, where we've got like our, what is it, 6 normal iron nodes out here, 2 normal limestone and 2 normal copper nodes, so that we have a little pit stop here. And then to get myself prepared for future is I've added this long trek out here, because the first tier 5 milestone that we're turning in is going to be for oil production. And so I've got a Hypertube set up out here and a platform ready for us to start diving into getting our oil production up and running. So of course I've put this transport tube out here because we're going to be back and forth between our main base and this new area out here, which is going to be dedicated to our oil production facility. And I've got this huge concrete pad all set up out here. I've got the oil nodes already kind of separated. I know where they're at. They're out of the way and they're ready to go for us. So, but we do have all of our motors now, because of course, by the time I got this all built, our motor production, we've got like a stockpile of almost 500 of them. So let us head back and do some turn in. Okay, so we're just getting back from our trek and we are here to turn in our first tier 5 milestone. So we're heading in here. This is oil processing, waiting for resources. We're in with the motors. We're in with our encased industrial beams. A whole bunch of pipe, of which I didn't grab enough pipe. You see, I originally had grabbed enough pipe, but then I went and built the Hypertube transport system, and that consumed a bunch of the pipe that I had in my inventory, so I've just ran back and I grabbed some more. Okay, there we go. We've got our pipe. Let's add the copper sheeting. Do I have enough copper sheeting? Yes, I do. Launch away. Oil processing milestone is now complete.
Oil acquisition. This is a
okay, so oil production. We're going to pause on milestones now, because now we're going to start diving into all of the oil that we've got set up out at our new little platform out there for oil production. So let's go out there and have a look at what we're going to do. Okay, here we are out at our platform here, and first things first is we've got to gather up all of this oil and kind of get it into one spot that we're going to work with. So the nodes are kind of there, and right here, and then this one's kind of in the middle of nowhere. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the oil to the edge here, try to bring it all around so that it all comes around and then meets up here so that we can kind of build. I don't know which way to go with this, which is going to be the best. Maybe it's just better if I work at getting all the oil together, and then if we have to expand the platform, we can expand out one of the directions that are here. But I think that's what I'm going to work on first, is let's get this oil actually extracting to begin with. And then we'll kind of work from there as to what's going to be the best scenario to try to get all of this out of here. And I'm hoping that these aren't going to be like too far underground here. I think that's too far. Let's get this up like so it's up out of the ground a little bit. We're going to head over to this one over here. And I'm just going to fill in now that I remember where these locations are. Oh, I'm getting attacked. Ah! Where is it? Oh my goodness, there's 2 of them. Die! Oy vey. Okay. Now I've lost where that node was. Let's go oil extractor. Where does it fit? Creatures are in the way. Really? You didn't see that. Nobody saw that. Okay, let's put this facing this way. And then we got to do the same for this node over here. We're going to fill this area in. Put an extractor down here facing this way. I'm thinking I'm going to want to kind of build in this area heading out that way. So this oil extractor, I think I'm going to, we're just going to build out like this. And that's not what I need. I need an extractor. That's going to go right there. Okay, so we have our extractors in place. Here's another little issue that we need to deal with is there's another one of these things. I just kind of blasted through and made the area and didn't really pay attention to what was here. So let's kill this thing off. There we go. We're safe. And concrete. There we go. We've got some concrete here. So we've got this big, huge area in the middle that we can work with for our refineries. We might have to route some of the stuff because we'll get our oil refineries turning everything into usable. I guess we'll make some rubber and we'll make some plastic. And then the heavy oil residue production will maybe build on this side over here to turn it into fuel to make fuel generators and stuff. Did we get fuel generators out of that? Let's go to power. Coal generator. No, we did not get fuel generators. So we won't be dealing with that yet. We might have to have recycling. Let's build a refinery and have a look at what we can do with this. All right, so here's our refinery. And let's look at our different recipes that we could play around with to start off with. So the first one obviously is going to be plastic that we're probably going to be dealing with. That's going to produce heavy oil residue. The other one that we're going to be dealing with is rubber. That's going to produce heavy oil residue. Now, what can I do with that heavy oil residue? Is there anything? Let's look at residual fuel, but I've got no way of burning the fuel. So we might have to see if there's another milestone that we've got to get. Because we got the biomass burner and the coal generator and power storage. Where do we got to go to get? Let's go back and have a look at our tier milestones and see which one we need to be able to get that generator. All right, so I'm back here having a look, and it's actually tier 6 logistics Mark 4, where we get the fuel generator to be able to consume that fuel. So, there's got to be a way that we can consume. That's a coal generator. That's not what I wanted to put down. Let's grab that again. Let's refinery. Let's go production. So we are taking this oil. Okay, so everything will end up producing. Oh, we can make petroleum coke with the heavy oil residue. So we could take that heavy oil residue, we'll turn it into petroleum coke. That petroleum coke will just burn in coal generators for now. That's how we're going to get past that gap, because when we look at our milestone here, let's have a look. For that tier 6 logistics Mark 4, we need to be able to be producing rubber to be able to unlock this. Well, obviously, if we can't make it run because we got to get rid of that heavy oil residue, then that makes it really tricky. But I don't even know. I didn't even look at the petroleum coke. I totally forgot about it. So we're going to turn that heavy oil residue basically into a type of coal. It's not as, I don't believe it's as efficient as coal, but I will double check that as we start getting it built and start working towards what we need for our refineries down there. But the first thing first is I need to gather up all of the oil that we've got there, see how much oil we have, and then how many refineries we're going to be working with. So I've had a look at these. Those two are normal nodes for oil. These two here are pure nodes. So I'm going to do some slight, because we're dealing with Mark 1 pipes here that can only do 300 cubic meters of fluid. I'm going to do some slight overclocking on these to get them up to that 300 mark. That way we're getting the best out of all of our machines and pipes, and going to make we're going to make the absolute most, whether it's energy, plastic, rubber, that we can at our current level in the game here, until we end up with the next level of pipe, which is the Mark II pipes that are capable of doing 600 cubic meters of fluid. And then we could just like pile in the power shards into these to be able to overclock them. But it's only a 25% overclock on these ones. I'm not sure what it is on those ones yet. When we get over to those ones, I will deal with that. The other thing I want to do on this as well too is we're going to, at every one of these, I'm just going to throw in a little fluid buffer in here, just to make sure that we basically got a little bit of a protection for our fluid production. I'm going to let this thing fill up. I can even, once we start actually making rubber, we can actually go along and we can throw a valve in here and make sure that all of the fluid only goes into here, and it will help with backslosh and stuff like that. But it's just a little bit of a buffer that we've got here that will hold 400 cubic meters of fluid, just to ensure that everything stays running smooth. I should probably have fluid buffers set up on my coal power plant over there, but I think I've got everything flowing there, is I don't think we're going to have any water shortages. So maybe once we start getting to that tier 5 conveyor of coal and 780 items per minute and trying to push massive amounts of fluid through, then we can look at throwing some fluid buffers on the coal power plant. But for now, here we're going to have the fluid buffers on every single one of the output side of the raw material. So you're going to see it on each of the oil wells, as well as you're going to see fluid buffers on the output side of the refineries that are collecting that heavy oil residue. So there's a little bit of a buffer to compensate for if a line goes down or if something is interrupted, that we don't end up with a fluid backup at all. All right, here I am at one of the normal nodes. I'm going to throw in that in there, and we're going to take this to 150 on these, and that's a 25% as well too. Now what if, just curious here for a second, I could get actually if I completely overclock this, I can get the 300 cubic meters of fluid out of these. So we could actually end up with 4 full pipes of fluid. Now, pretty sure this is max. Like, this isn't going to get any higher. So when we do upgrade to Mark II pipes, then we'll end up having to combine those lines. But these here, at least we can get the absolute most out of them right now. I've got the power shards because I think I had a purple, a couple of yellows, and a pile of blue slugs that I had gathered up while I was making my way out here to set this place up. And so we might as well take advantage of having these extra power shards kicking around. We'll just crank them up and we'll get as much oil out of these as we can. All right, so I've been able to take all of these now, and I've brought in 4 pipes worth of 300 items per minute. So each one of these pipes, each one of the refineries requires 30 of the crude oil going in. So if we select, say, plastic, for instance, it's 30 oil in to 20 plastic out and 10 heavy oil residue. So 10 of these refineries will take care of 1 pipe. So that means we're going to need 40 refineries to be able to refine all of this crude oil. Hopefully, I have enough room here for that. So I'm looking at this right now, and that is a total of, we got 10 there. I could put another 10. It looks like it's going to be 2 rows of 10. So we're going to do 1 row of plastic. So I might actually redesign how these pipes are distributed. Let's just delete this. We're going to do 2 pipes of plastic and 2 pipes of rubber is what we're going to make out of this. And then all of the excess will end up going to Petroleum Coke. So this will be the starting point. As long as I've got enough room to deal with the logistics of everything going out here. And then figure out, okay, what do we do with the output side? And I think we'll just wrap it around. And then we'll build out this way or build straight out that way to deal with. Oh, you know what? We're going to have tons of room over this way. We could just build out towards that cliff face to make all of our petroleum coke. So I think we're going to have enough room here to be able to handle this. Let me get the rest of these refineries placed down and then we can go from there. Alrighty, I have got the oil refineries all set up here and they are configured, ready to go. So the first 20 refineries that we have set up here that are taking care of the 300 cubic meters of oil per minute lines. These are making our plastic, and I currently have them shut off because I haven't dealt with the heavy oil residue yet. But all 20 of these, that's going to make our plastic, and I believe it's like 20 plastic per... Yeah, we're getting 400 plastic per minute off of this production line, and then an additional 200 cubic meters of heavy oil residue that's coming off of this line. Then we're doing the exact same thing over here. We've got 20 refineries set up. These ones are set up to do rubber is what we're processing on here. Each one of them is making 20 rubber, but this, they're making 20 heavy oil residue. So we've got 400 rubber and 400 heavy oil residue coming off of these. I've got a conveyor bus all set up here that's taking all of these products, our 400 plastic per minute and our 400 rubber per minute, are all heading back towards our main starter factory way off into the distance there. And then I've got some awesome sinks set up and stuff so that this line won't ever back up. It'll just keep, the plastic will just get dumped into an awesome sink if things are full. Now the next thing we need to deal with is the heavy oil residue. So on the output side here, we've got 2 full lines of 300 items. There's a total of 600 cubic meters of heavy oil residue coming off of these 40 refineries. So I've got a line of 200 here off of this, and then we're just combining it with 5 more of these refineries to get us 300 cubic meters per minute off of that into a small little fluid buffer for to help with flow and storage and whatnot. And then the other 15 of the refineries on this side give us our other 300 cubic meters of heavy oil residue. So now we need to plan our attack for dealing with this heavy oil residue, which is going to be petroleum coke. So each one of these will take 40 heavy oil residue per minute. And that will produce 120 petroleum coke off of these. We're going to get a ton of materials off of this, which is good because look at our power consumption. Our max capacity is 2.4 gigawatts. Our max consumption right now is just over 3.6 gigawatts of power. So we're going to be turning the petroleum coke we get off of this. They're going to go into coal generators out here to be able to make coal power for us because we don't have the fuel generator yet. So we can't refine this into fuel just yet. That's going to come in tier 6, but this will get us by for now. Hopefully we will get enough of our petroleum coke out of here that we'll be able to have enough power generation off of this so that we can offset all the power that we are consuming out here now. Because yeah, we still have a bunch more refineries that we got to put out here that's going to be dealing with the heavy oil residue. And we're at 3.6 gigawatts. So we've got some work to do. So let me deal with the heavy oil residue and then we'll turn it all on and see what happens. All right, now it's time to show you what we're doing with all of this heavy oil residue. So all the heavy oil residue is coming down here. It goes into these 2 fluid buffers. And then we have them set up here running into all of these refineries that we have actually underclocked these to 75%. So that we're getting 90 per minute out of them. And that is so that we can get a nice even split of 20 of these refineries that are taking care. 10 refineries will do 300 heavy oil residue with no issues. So we've got 2 separate systems here to take care of our 600 heavy oil residue that we're making. But then also with these underclocked at 75%, as we hit a little autosave, that means we're outputting 3 of them together. They're outputting at 90 per minute, while 3 of them together equals one 270 item per minute Mark III belt. So it worked out really well for balancing this, that we ended up with what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 full lines of 270 items per minute, and then an additional little chunk here that was, I want to say, is 180 is what's coming off of here, to head off to our coal generators. And then, so I've got 4 coal generators here, 22 here, 22 there, and another 22 right here. That's going to be able to take all of that petroleum coke now and turn it into additional power for us. Now, the only downside with this is there's no way to really charge the lines. So we're going to see some pretty significant power fluctuations until everything all kind of balances out and gets running. So I guess first things first is we need to turn on our actual production line, get things rolling, get things moving along, rolling along, and then we can maybe start like shutting off some of the heavy oil residue refineries so that we can kind of get a little bit of a backlog of heavy oil residue, but not enough to shut down the system. And then things will just click and start working. So I'm going to get all these turned on, and then I'm going to play around a little bit with the heavy oil residue refineries to see if I can get them to fully charge up, and then we should have some consistent power being generated. Now, here's the thing, like, until I get that power up and running, look at this. Our max consumption is 5.12 or 5.16 gigawatts of power. We're only making 2.4. We need those petroleum coke generators to kick in, because that's going to add at least another 3. See, they're slowly starting to come online now, but it's going to take a bit to get that all running. So let me finish getting these all turned on, and then we'll see where we're at. All right, it took a little bit of priming and adjustments and shutting off refineries, letting them fill, turning them back on, back and forth, shutting off power plants, turning them back on to get everything all stockpiled up. I let the storage containers, I have like a storage buffer set up on each one of these. I let some of these fill up quite a bit before I started turning on the power plants, so that I had a full line of materials to deal with on here. After I got that done, oh, and the other thing too is I was having some water starvation issues because I was running into some head lift troubles. So I put in water pumps along the lines, like pipe pumps here, inline pumps, to increase our head lift so that we could get the water up into the plant more efficiently. Once I got that done, and then I got all the water to prime up in the generators properly, now our power consumption is nice, and like our power production is nice and smooth. There's no more of those waves and fluctuations anymore. We're now making, we went from what, 2.4 to 7.8. So we're making 5.4 gigawatts of power off of petroleum coke out of here. Now, fuel, yes. Converting the heavy oil residue into fuel is going to be way more effective, and we'll get way more power out of that. And it's kind of a cleaner, smaller build than what this is. But we got to wait till tier 6 to be able to do that. But what a process this was to be able to take our production line that we've got going here for our plastic and our rubber and our heavy oil residue and converting that all into petroleum coke and then turning it into power. And then, of course, man, as I started turning things on, I was getting breakers blowing left, right, and center because I ended up firing all of these refineries up and my power draw just went right through the roof. And it wasn't actually making enough petroleum coke to turn on the generators. So I was constantly dealing with breaker issues. Every time I turned something on, something would die. So I had to like turn one on and let the petroleum coke kind of build up a little bit on that one. And then turn on another one because then it would support a couple of generators and so on and so forth. To the point that we now have, oh, and the other line too, like this one here. I only had this set up at 90 petroleum coke that was coming out of here. But it's actually these two refineries, which is producing 180 petroleum coke. So I had to kind of double this up. Underclocked this last one because it's only going to be consuming 5 petroleum coke. And the rest of these are 25 each. So it's 175 divided by 7 of them. And then this last one kind of takes care of the rest. So yeah, 4 more generators in here to be able to consume all of our products so that we don't end up with any backlog. And the way you know it works, let's look at our storage containers. Look at this number that's here. And it basically kind of stays around the same number. It'll fluctuate up and down a tiny little bit. That's it. Come to this one. It's just flicking. It's sitting at that 56, 57. Let's go over to this one here. 93. You can actually, this one here is so in tune with how it's pulling out and going in. You can barely see the number fluctuating on this one. This one over here, between 110, 111 on that one particular stack. As long as it stays like this, and we don't see this number rapidly starting to increase, then we're in good shape. This one here, like just fluctuating, 26, 27, 26, 27. That means that for every piece of petroleum coke that's going in, every piece of petroleum coke going out is getting consumed into power. So this here is 100% efficient. The only thing that's not necessarily efficient is our conveyor belts that are going back, because I didn't feel like load balancing them, because all this is going to end up growing later on. Is one of these belts is running at 260 items per minute. So every once in a while you see an occasional little blip in the system. But it's not too bad. So we have one line of rubber that's 260 and one line of plastic that's 260. And then of course this goes all the way back to our starter factory. To this point over here where we've got a conveyor coming in. It's feeding plastic into here. Once this is completely full, it'll all just get dumped into this awesome sink. And look, we're making coupons now. Lots of coupons. And then the other line is just getting dumped into this awesome sink. The rubber line, we're dumping into storage here. And then, of course, the last line goes through and gets dumped into this awesome sink. So that will keep that line always running. We'll always have the oil production running. We don't ever have to worry about it. And then eventually when we get further down our tiers and we get smart splitters, then we can actually set these up as overflow lines, put in some overflow splitters in there so that we can consume this product in other production lines that we've got going on here in our starter factory. So I think right here is probably a pretty good, I didn't get as much done. Well, I did. I got a lot done, but I only got one milestone completed, and that was oil processing. And then we turned it into an oil production plant. And with this oil production plant, we are getting 400 plastic per minute, 400 rubber per minute, and over 5.4 gigawatts of additional power. So with that said, reach down, hit the like button on the video. I would really appreciate it if you could. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think of my my oil plant, my oil processing, my plastic production, and the efficiency layout that we've got set up here. Refineries turning everything, the heavy oil residue, into petroleum coke. Petroleum coke generating us more power. And all in all, I think the build, it turned out quite well. I do like that it's, fairly open. You can see all the machinery running. Lots of water extractors. I have all of these water extractors massively overclocked. I went and gathered up a ton of power slugs. And each one of these water extractors is running at 300% just because I did not want these generators starving. And so everything's good there. So leave a comment. Let me know about what you think of our oil processing plant. Subscribe if you are new to the channel. That would be fantastic. And ring that notification bell so you can be notified when a new video has been uploaded. Become part of the notification squad. And then, of course, YouTube notifications can be sketch at times, so feel free to follow me on social media at TerrisDWDC. And that's on Instagram, Twitter /X, and Threads. With that all said, you guys have a fantastic day, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye for now.